Welcome to the Grapefully Yours Wine Show. I'm Jim Campanini, co-host of the show. My other co-host, Mike Pigeon, the wine butler, he's in the corner. He's on the DL today. He's got a little problem with his wrist. What is it now? You think you got a little...
Well, supposedly it's gout, and we're working on it with prednisone.
Yeah, so he's on the bench because the doctor told him he can't have any alcohol. Now, what does alcohol have to do with it? It'll probably make you feel better with all those pills that you're taking.
That's how I look at it.
But anyway, we hope that Mike gets better and that he'll be back on the show and drinking wine. One good thing is my wine cellar has been holding stable since you've been on the bench. You know, no one's sneaking in there. Well, we have a special guest today, David Messina. He's a man of many hats at the Wine ConneXtion, North Andover, one of the my favorite stores, wine stores. The Messina family's been operating it for years, but they're customer friendly. And, you go in that store, you feel just comfortable, they answer your questions, no one pushes anything. They don't have to because the deals are so spectacular. I mean, you just walk around the store and browse. It's great. Welcome, David.
Jim, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And before we start with the show, we'll talk to David about some the industry trends and stuff. And he's got an excellent wine that he's the main buyer up there at the store, and he looks for deals all the time that he passes on to consumers. We'll talk about that. But first, this InsideLowell podcast is coming to you from the WellPoint Studios. Unicare is now WellPoint. New name, same commitment to Massachusetts. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Jeez, you think they can cover the crown I got for my tooth there, Mike? You know, $1,900 for a crown. Can you believe that?
Oh, jeez.
2 bottles of 𝒍𝒑𝒐𝒊𝒏𝒕.
I'd say so, yeah. But it feels pretty good. Dr. Guerin out in Tewksbury taking care of it, and he's saving the tooth and everything, so it feels pretty good, you know. So that's good. So David, I was at the store a couple of weeks ago. We talked, and it was a very engaging conversation. David knows a lot about the industry, keeps up and stuff. And we were talking about the pricing. And, basically, right now, wine consumption, is it wine consumption or sales are down?
I think it's consumption across the board from the United States throughout the world is down for the most part. Yeah. Yes.
And is it a reaction from COVID, or is it a lot of factors?
I think it's, perfect storm, Jim. When you look at it, I think it's a little bit of COVID, people, they did obviously, were drinking more, people were home, now we're back to somewhat reality of some normal sort, and people are trying to find, their new level of where they're at, and some people are cutting back for health reasons, and I think just overproduction as a whole across the world. And my father said it the other week, if we drank as much wine as was produced, I don't think we'd all be here today because so much is really produced at the end of the day.
And you made an interesting point to me that the bulk wine industry in California, they're still sitting on wine from a year and two ago. They can't sell it. Was that from overproduction or?
A lot of that definitely overproduction. We did have a couple short vintages out in California, but from what I've been hearing, crop reports, talking to winery owners and whatnot, there's a lot of juice floating out there from the last vintage or two. And this is kind of across the board. You've read some of the reports where, who's ripping up vines, who's selling stuff off, who's not contracting for the following year. It's just a lot happening out there with just California in general, and then the rest of the world, Europe especially too.
Yeah. And I just read something in the wine industry, but Wine Advisor, talking about how some of these grape growers that have had family operations for years might go out of business because they can't even sell their grapes. They were selling like for $700-800 a ton, and people are taking it away for $200, and they're losing money. But just to get it off the property, they're trying to do it. And the interesting point of the story was you know, when the industry, because we've gone through these ebbs and flows before,
Of course.
they could go over to another crop. Almonds is big in California, but they said even the almond industry is oversaturated right
yeah.
now because a lot of grape growers have already done that to survive. So they're in a squeeze you know,
just the amount of water it takes to reduce those almonds. It's not.
Oh, yeah,
It's not
yeah.
good.
So what impact does it have on the wine industry? I think it was you who were telling me that you're going to be careful when you buy because with all this bulk wine out there, people are just grabbing bottles, putting a label on it, and throwing juice into a bottle, and you got to be careful what you buy. And
Yeah, one thing, we've really tried to move forward with at the store is kind of getting away from a lot of this bulk stuff. Because, it's going to end up with the amount of licenses now and how they've changed the licensing structure in Massachusetts specifically. You're pushing the small guy out at the end of the day. Small guy, when I mean mom and pop, 1, 2, maybe 3 store locations. That's what I'm considering a mom and pop, not a 5-store chain, not a 6, 7, 8, 9 licensed store chain. Those guys, we can't handle those sorts of bulk buys. So what we've done for our concept is we've tried to slowly move away from that stuff. And I'm seeing it in the next generation of drinkers anyway. They do not want to drink what their parents drank. And they don't want to drink, the bulk wines and, the bigger names that their parents are drinking for generations. And if they do, they start there and then they start moving outside the box because they want something different. And I think that's also going back to your original point with the bulk wine industry. I think that's affecting that industry is the changing of the demographics on top of that. And the industry can't catch up with it fast enough. And kind of that's what I'm seeing a little bit on my end, but we also run our operation very different compared to other stores.
so you're basically going for reliable, consistent brands, the true value brands that you've also discovered some new ones. Why don't you talk a little about that? How does your business philosophy work?
I wouldn't say so much brands anymore, Jim.
Okay.
We still have, some of the tried and true brands for a while, but I've just looked at these, I do my numbers every month and I look at the movement on these and I'm like, wow, these have just really slowed down. And I started thinking to myself, what person stopped coming in, who stopped drinking that, or what they move on to that's new. And then that's like the micro aspect of it. And then all these new ones that we start looking at, they're the real, those are the real mom and pop producers. Those are the guys that, hey, I only make 3,000 cases a year, but if I'm going to sell it, I want to sell it here. I don't want to sell it at Market Basket and stuff like that. In Market Basket, at the end of the day, they'll have all the brands and that's fine. They can sell them because I'm not going to sell them at cost. So, yeah, it's just kind of diving in and finding all these really great small family-owned producers that are out there that want to sell wine. They've been around forever. They just either didn't make enough to go out to the market or they just didn't choose to go out to the market.
And how do you get a line on those? You go out and visit them? I know you've taken trips in the past and going to different places. Your father has also.
I'd say it's kind of just, really working with some of my wholesalers and certain sales reps that, they just come in, they show me like a great producer, or again, I will be at a wine event and I'll come and taste it. And it's just, it's that smaller guy. And he's like, yeah, I am the winemaker. I'm out here showing my wines at a show, the trade shows and stuff like that. And then you start talking to these guys and you're like, wow, this is a $16 bottle that, it's organic, it's biodynamic, it's sustainable, and they only make 3,000 cases a year. It's like, yeah, I want to sell this. I want to bring this in. And usually these guys have enough since they're only going to places like me and a few other shops where I can sustain those wines and their pricing through about, through the year, through the vintage at least.
Well, let's talk about pricing because when you go into the Wine ConneXtion, you see all these little yellow cards and labels, and it says, it says right out front the deal. You know, whether it's $2, $3, $5 less than you'll find it in the New Hampshire liquor store, you know, and other places. So the people know right off the bat where where you stand. Do you like, and yet you've got some great you know, premium wines throughout the store in the back and everything.
Yep.
But business right now is so tough on the margins. You got to balance it.
Yeah.
And the philosophy of the store, it always was interesting to me from the first day I went to the store years ago. You know, because you don't have 1,000 brands, but you know everything there is quality. Even the new stuff that you bring in. You guys taste it, or you let the public taste it, because you do those wine tastings, free wine tastings, almost every Saturday at the store.
Yeah, we it's amazing the philosophy when my aunt and my father opened the store to now, and if we continued with the original philosophy that we were doing to now, I don't really know where we'd be right now in the industry with how things have gone. And I've talked to other people in the industry that have been there a lot longer than me, and they said, you know, keep doing what you guys are doing with your concept and how we've evolved throughout that. And by what I mean is, when Wine ConneXtion first opened, this will be our 15th anniversary this fall, actually. You know, it still is excellent wines at excellent prices, but at the beginning it was all big brands. It was all big brands, stack it high, watch it fly type of mentality. You know, I remember, you know, 30 cases of this, 30 cases of that, 25 of this. And those are the brands that we were talking about at the beginning of the show that, you know, now I'm seeing, I'm lucky if I do 30 cases in a year now of those brands, you know. And I think it's just how we've changed our philosophy with just going with the smaller producers. The consumer wants smaller producers. They want organic. They want cleaner. They want, you know, biodynamic, sustainable. And the big guys haven't done a good job at doing that at the end of the day. You know, it's private equity. That's what's coming in the industry.
Well, I got to give, I mean, you know, I don't call myself an expert, but I drink a lot of different wines and stuff, but I could always count on your father, you. Like, I mean, this, I remember years ago. How long has it been Constellation bought Maomi?
Oh,
that
God.
was Joe Wagner left 𝒂𝒆𝒊𝒏𝒕. That was the son of Chuck Wagner, started Maomi. It went crazy when he had it, you know. Then Constellation bought it for hundreds of millions of dollars.
320 million for the name.
And they gave a non-compete to Joe.
Name.
So Joe couldn't do anything. And I remember Sam saying, "Oh, you're still buying that, don't you?" He says, "You know, Jim, nothing against Constellation, but they're going for big volume. They're diluting. It's just not made the way that Joe made it." He says, "But he says try this." And this was like 2 or 3 years after the sale, and it was when they went to Bone, Joe
created
Bowen, you know, and it was cheaper than the Maomi. And he says, "Yeah," and he says, "Try this." And I says, "Unbelievable." So you can always, you know, find something new up there, but you guys always know what is going on in the industry and conscious of the value and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And then I tell people, I wrote about it and stuff like that. And then Copper Cane, that was the company that Joe Wagner started. And your father said, "Watch this guy. He's pretty good, and he's got some delicious wines." And they're all, you know, right in that value. Same thing with when Kim Crawford sold their Kim Crawford is actually a guy, but it was from New Zealand that had the great Sauvignon Blanc and his wife, but they sold it to some big Constellation too, and then they had a non-compete for 5 years.
Yep.
But they were buying land in New Zealand, and Sam knew it, and he says, "Hey, when they started with their new wine, Love Block."
Yep.
He says, "I know it's a little more, $1 or $2 more, but they had to buy their land and everything." And I tell you, my wife loves it. And everybody, you know, I say, "Hey, people," but Kim Crawford has a following.
It does. Oh my
You know,
God.
great following.
It's crazy.
It's still a great company, you know, and wine. But if you want the real Kim Crawford, it's called Love Block. So you could always expect something like that from the Wine ConneXtion, which brings me to this wine today.
Yep.
Which you discovered. And I want you to, because I was there a couple of weeks ago, and Terry, one of your great employees, and who's part time now. But Terry runs a lot of the. I think he's twice a month now, right? He does.
Yeah,
the,
I get them twice a month.
the
for
wine
tastings.
tastings where you can just go in there. They're free. Go right up. They usually have 5 or 6 wines on a Saturday from 1 to 4, 1 to 5. You just sidle up. Terry tells you about the wines, pours you a glass, and he says, and I was in a hurry. I went up there for bourbon, which another thing, David, like he talks about, the old philosophy was basically all wines. David started all the spirits end of the Wine ConneXtion. You go into they got a separate room, great vodkas, bourbons, distilled spirits, scotch, and he knows every one of those because I go to him and says, I remember telling him I like Michner's. He brought it in, he tested it, he liked it. That's where I buy it, and the rye. I love the rye and stuff. So it's a great store for fine things. But why don't you tell us a little about this Vivier, because I tasted it and Terry says, Jim, you got to try this. It's a $45 wine. David got it, a great deal. We're selling it for $23. I says, well, I got to try this, and I did. And I bought a couple of bottles. So why don't you tell us a little about this?
I mean, this was kind of a small little discovery from, again, just a really small wholesaler. Guy has some great artillery in his book. And I originally, a year ago, I bought their higher end single estate, Gap's Crown, on a pre-sale. I ended up selling through that case, all hand sells to some good customers here and there. And then he still had some sitting around from a year later. This is a Sonoma Coast appellation, so it's a blend of the two. It has Gap's Crown and a little bit of Petaluma Gap, I believe, in there as well.
Petaluma Gap.
So 2017 versus 2018, and he had a little bit this left. So I tried it, and I said, wow, that is just drinking incredible. I mean, they're two completely different animals when you go from this to the single estate. This is definitely it's like a cross between Burgundy and a little bit of California at the same time. That's that's kind of how I see it, at least. And Stéphane Vivier, I mean, the guy's got a great pedigree, great background, worked at Hyde de Villain, who was co-owner, I believe, of Domaine Romani Conti.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, one of the most expensive Burgundies, Pinot Noirs in the world, if you can get your hands on it. And I said, wow, this guy's got a great pedigree. I really want to try these wines. Tried them, loved it. And they had still, like I said, some of the sitting around the warehouse from the previous vintage. So I stepped up, bought the last 8 cases of it for a very good price, and passed that on to the customers for under $30 a bottle. And I mean, this is 775 case production, so it's tiny. That's tiny.
And that's the key here. It's a limited production by a world-class winemaker. He and his wife, they vested in California, in Sonoma County, and they don't want to be big.
No.
They're making artisanal wines basically for themselves. And if they're making it for themselves that they drink and they're passing it on to you, okay, it's primo, because they're not drinking mediocre wine and stuff. So I tasted it with Terry, and I bought 2 bottles of bourbon. I said, Terry, I got someplace to go. I got to get out of here. He said, no, taste this first. And so I went through my routine. There were people at the table. Holy shit! I said, where is this? He says, they're over there. I said, I'm taking 2 bottles home.
Oh yeah.
And David's exactly right. The fragrance on this, it's got that nice burgundy,
really
aromatics,
earthy vegetal kind of nose, and then the fruit comes out in the finish. It's
and then it's got that California sunshine, Sonoma County and stuff, and you can see the color. I mean, it's 7 years old, but it's still holding up very, very nice. The color, a little ruby highlights in there, but it looks lighter, okay. And
this needs about half an hour to open up, really, too. From when you read the descriptions, and then also once we kind of let it breathe for a little bit before the tasting, it really started to show. Really,
and I'm not spitting this out, even if it is 9 o'clock in the morning. No. And so this I think it was $23.99. It was selling, because I got when I was there, and when you go to $22.99. Yeah, $22.90 wine, Sonoma Coast. when you do go to the Wine ConneXtion, they have the wine tasting. You get a little brochure. They got all the explanations about the wines in there, the cost right up front, very transparent. And you know, you can take this home. You can write on it, take notes and stuff. And it's so on this day they had 6 wines, but I didn't get the chance to taste this 𝒊𝒐𝒔𝒂
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, and because I would have the white, because that's we tasted Greek wines at a seminar. I really like it. And 𝒊𝒐𝒔 is a fantastic wine. Good.
It is.
Very tasty.
Very tasty. Just that really nice, bright, crisp, acid-driven, you know, refreshing summer white.
Yeah, good. But this wine, I mean, it really stands out because I mean, I looked it up and
The nose is incredible in that.
yeah,
too, now. It's really coming out.
the winemaker has an incredible past, and to get a deal on his special wine. Now, do you still have the Gaps Crown? Do you still
I
have?
have a little bit left. I had one customer come in, grab the bottle to try it, came back. He bought 2 cases. I had 5 cases total. Now I think I'm down to like 5-6 bottles left.
You're gonna save me one.
You
Because,
got it.
Because I'd
course.
like to try that after this, see what the difference is. But the single estate and this is from two vineyards, separate vineyards. But these exclusive places, vineyards and stuff. And if you like Pinot Noir, I mean, this is one that. You know, lamb,
This
ham.
is
I mean,
very food friendly, but
Yeah,
also
yeah.
even by itself, you know,
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
warmer day like we've had with this weather, I wouldn't be afraid of putting a little bit of a chill on this and really sipping this, you know.
yeah. So it was a great find.
Oh, huge.
And how's it gone over at the store?
I mean, that day I think we sold 2 cases at the tasting, and since then it's already been another like 1.5, 2 cases. So that was
Wow.
what, in like a week ago, that
Yeah,
tasting. So
yeah.
yeah, it's been moving. You know, people are. When I can tell people, you know, I should be selling this for 45 and I'm selling it to you for $23 a bottle, they don't hesitate to buy it.
Oh yeah, and I looked it up online. I mean, the website, the company website actually has it. If you were to join their wine club, because that's the only way you can really buy their wine, you have to join their wine club. So how David got this is another good find. And so you're getting a club that a wine that is basically a club product that only goes to its club members first, and it was $45.
Yeah.
Okay, then you get a discount if you're a club member, maybe 10% off. So you pay about $40, 38 something, and I mean it's a great quality wine for that price. Now those are the deals that you want. You share it with your friends, and they say, "Wow, where'd you get this wine?" You say, "Well, very exclusive. You have to be in the right place at the right time."
Yeah, it is.
And it's a deal,
Definitely.
So what else you got at the store that might be intriguing for our viewers?
Well, right now we like going back to, you know, the organics, biodynamics, a lot of that. So far, when we've been featuring these wines in the tastings, a lot of the customers have been very receptive to that, in the sense that, you know, as Americans, we know a lot of our food is very contaminated here, unfortunately, and now people trying to be striving to be healthier, as we've seen with the shift in the industry with lower calorie wines and stuff like that. The organics and that stuff has been very receptive because people want cleaner wines. They want to know what's in their wines, who's making their wines. You know, they don't want chemistry wines. They want someone like this guy who's just, at the end of the day, this is advanced farming. That's what these people want. And we've been doing a lot with that. We changed over all of our signage now. So when you walk into the store, anything that is a green sign will indicate those for you. We give you a whole key breaking it down of how to show, you know, what's organic, what's biodynamic, what's sustainable. And I'm not saying that every wine that isn't organic, biodynamic, or sustainable is bad for you. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm just saying this is kind of what I've seen that people are looking for more. So I've started to add more of those to the store. And it's funny because a lot of them just happen to be really good priced, really good value wines from small family producers. At the end of the day, that's the best part. You know, you go to Italy, especially like Sicily and stuff like that. There's a ton of great stuff down there. Austria has a lot of really good stuff. And right now I see a lot of people, especially with the hot weather we've been having. The whites kind of are the lower alcohol whites, 10.5, 11%, 11.5%. They've been selling very well for us right now.
Last week, well, the last show 2 weeks ago, we featured the Grenache, Ganaka. It was at Tres Picos.
Oh,
from your
great
store.
bottle of wine.
Yeah, because a friend asked me, he's actually a golfer, and he asked me, gee, Jim, what's a great wine to make sangria? I says, oh, Rioja or Ganaka, Grenache, you know. I said, even Pinot Noir. I said, you want something fruity, you know, and stuff, but so I got the Grenache, Tres Picos. We had it on the show, and he went up and bought a bottle. He made the sangria, he and his wife, and he said it was fantastic. So
Excellent.
it was a good.
Good.
It was a good, and that was a good bottle on its own.
Oh yeah,
$15.99, I think it was.
that's been a strong seller since as long as I've been
Spanish,
working
yeah.
there. Yeah, Spain's got some great value when you start
Yeah.
looking into it.
Yeah,
A ton of
no.
wine there.
So, what are the plans for your 15th celebration?
I gotta go over that with Tina and Sam, and I'd like to do some fun stuff this year with either getting winemakers in, different events, see what we can come up with. We haven't. We've still been having our big fall tasting, but it's definitely changed since pre-COVID. Those tents that we used to get and stuff like that, those cost a lot more money now than they used to. And so we'll see. I'd like to do some fun stuff. That's what I'm going to be working on for the summer, because right now we're kind of just kicking back and, looking to the fall, get ready for our busy time.
Good. And if you could leave our viewers with one tip about going into the wine store, buying wine, what would it be?
I would say find a wine store or shop, or at least somebody who works at one of those places that you can, get to know well and kind of trust their palate and work with them. And that person at the end of the day will probably show them some great wines that they'll never try before, and trust that person, especially if they're going out tasting the wines and looking for those wines. Because I feel like a lot of people now, I see the phone come out, they look at the reviews, they trust the reviews. And I had someone in the store. This is kind of a funny, quick story. She, she's going off about a certain wine on the reviews, and she goes, "Oh, Vivino says this," and I pointed to my father. I said, "This guy's got a lot more experience in reviews than Vivino. I'd go with his palate before I go with Vivino's review." Yeah. And she bought the bottle. She came back. She goes, "Oh yeah, you're completely right." I said, "Yeah, he's been around before Vivino."
Yeah. And you're right about that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Cellar Tracker, because it gives you a chance to put your wine bottles in your
it shows you like a value,
cellar.
a little different.
Yeah, and you see other comments and stuff like that. But some of those people,
my God, yeah,
I think it's artificial intelligence sometimes. Some of the things they write out there.
Yeah, seriously.
And I don't need all that sophistication to tell me what's so good about a wine or not. I can trust my own taste, and that's what it comes down to. It's what you like. You drink what you like,
exactly.
But be willing to be adventurous and explore.
I tell people that all the time. It's great. Your staple will always be there, but try something different every now and then. It's like going out to a restaurant every time and you only order like chicken parm, or you only order a steak. Try something else on the menu maybe once in a while.
All right, we're mid-summer. Okay, it's rosé season.
Oh yeah. Give
us one or two rosés that you're knocking it out of the park with.
Right now, one that we are doing very well is actually from Piedmont. It's from 𝒔𝒑𝒐𝒏𝒕. They're a big producer up in Barolo. They do a beautiful. It's called the Rosabella. It's a nice blend: Nebbiolo, Dolcetto, and Barbera. It's fantastic. It's beautiful strawberry notes, fruity notes, and then a really nice dry, crisp finish. Very low residual sugar. And then another one, you can find this probably in most stores that but we're doing pretty well with it, is the just the ·Peyresol LaCroix.
Oh yeah,
great house, great winery. Both of those.
That's
actually
from Provence.
Yes,
right?
Provence.
Yeah.
Both of those are actually certified organic too, which is kind of funny. But two great rosés, but the one from Italy we've been doing very well with.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Mike, you have any questions for David before we leave? Well, this has been very informative. We appreciate
fun.
it.
Thank
Anything
you.
this, you got a wine tasting this week?
We are off this weekend, but we're back at it next weekend. We had one last weekend. It was actually very busy. It was, you know, summer's usually sometimes quiet, but I said, oh, wow, this is great.
So you can go on their website. They got to go to wineconnection.com and
Facebook and Instagram as well. We're
Yep.
very active on there.
and they've got a calendar so you can see the events that are coming up and plan a day, you know, and go up to the wine store, introduce yourself to David and ask for his father Sam, and maybe even Tina is there. Auntie Tina is there, and but it's a great place. It's very, you know, it's a great store. You can walk around. There's no pressure. You can browse for as long as you want and stuff. And
we got 20 wines on tap. Sorry to interrupt.
That's right.
you, but we
That's
do
right.
have 20 wines you can always try before you buy on our tasting machines.
yes, on the tasting machine. So it's a great experience. So and it's a lot of parking. They got their own parking lot. So you park. It's First and Main right there. It's across from the town hall.
Yep.
Right.
Across from
Right?
Town Hall. It's right off 495.
Yes. So it's great. Well, David, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
coming. I
Jim. I
really
appreciate
enjoyed
having me.
myself.
Of course.
And,
Always.
Until next week, may the wine be with you.
Salute.
Salud.
Beautiful wine.